Hello and welcome to another top 5 video on the channel. Today's top 5 video is going to be a different topic than what I normally do. Now mostly my channel is about video games and occasionally movies and film and TV and those kind of things. Sometimes it's about comic books and that. Today I wanted to do a fun list on what I would pick as my top 5 shows I would like to see get a revival. Recently, we've had a lot of different television shows getting their own revivals and reboots. You know, there's Fuller House on Netflix, and most recently a show that I've been clamoring for a reboot of, or a revival, or somewhat to make good on its really shitty ending, was Roseanne, and I can't say enough good things about the reboot / revival of Roseanne. It is incredible. It is exactly what I wanted it to be, and it's so well done and it's so well put together, and I can't say enough good things about it. If you're even a remote fan of the sitcom Roseanne from the late 80s and early 90s, this is the most perfect example of how to bring a show back, and it doesn't even miss a beat. That's the best part of it. It feels like this show's been on the last 20 years and we didn't miss anything. And it's so well done. So this is my top 5 picks for shows that I would like to see get a revival or a reboot or a continuation or what have you. Now, number 5 on my list is going to be a weird and odd choice that a lot of people probably aren't even going to know because it was a very short-lived remake of a 50s/60s TV show, and that is the 2000/2001 remake of The Fugitive TV show starring Tim Daly. And the reason I put this on here is because, you know, a lot of times TV shows and stuff get canceled and they're left on cliffhangers, and if a show gets canceled and it ends on a cliffhanger, you're never going to get the answer to that cliffhanger. And throughout my entire life, no show has ended on a cliffhanger bigger or more frustrating to me than the 2000-2001 Fugitive. I still to this day do not know who the man is that shot Tim Daly's character on this show, and I'll never know, and it drives me insane. I would love to see some sort of remake or reboot or revival of this specific remake of that TV show, and honestly, unlike every other show on my list here, this will never happen. This show didn't do very well. It didn't garner the audience that CBS wanted for it at the time, and unfortunately it's just something that's never going to happen. I would love to have this happen, but it's not going to. So that's my number 5 pick, is the 2000-2001 Fugitive remake. I would love to see a revival of that with Tim Daly, but it's never going to happen. Number 4 on my list is going to be another 90s sitcom that I think, especially today, could easily get a reboot or a revival, especially considering what's happened over at ABC with Roseanne, and that's going to be the Tim Allen-led sitcom Home Improvement. I loved this show as a kid. I recently rewatched the entirety of this show within the last year, and I have a love and admiration for this show. Not quite on the same level as Roseanne and my number 1 pick for this list, but I would love to see it come back. Tim Allen has already expressed that he wants to do it. There were some rumblings going around that if the Roseanne revival was successful, and it was massively successful, that a Home Improvement reboot was next on the slate. This would be a perfect chance to do something here that they did with Roseanne, in which you can pick up the storyline from this show 20 years later and have their kids grown up, having their own kids and everything, and just kind of drop back into the life of Tim the Toolman Taylor and all the people that are on that show. I think it would be awesome. I think it'd be a great reboot, and especially you can see how successful a reboot can be right now. Roseanne garnered, I think, 22 million viewers in that first episode and has already been renewed for an 11th season, which is incredible to me. So I think a Home Improvement reboot could certainly work in today's landscape. Number 3 on my list is going to be a drama TV show. It's not going to be a sitcom. This is a drama, and I kind of was torn in between 2 FX shows that I love to death, and they're both by Kurt Sutter, And this one that I am picking specifically is going to be The Shield because, while I do love Sons of Anarchy equally, Sons of Anarchy kind of had the ending that I wanted out of it. And I would love to see something happen with The Shield. The Shield ended in a way where you could continue that storyline and pick up with it. You know, and spoilers for The Shield, you know, Detective Vic Mackey is at a desk job now at the end of that show. You could literally pick that story up and keep going with it, and I would love to see that happen. Even though The Shield had an ending that I accepted and I was okay with, I would love to see that show continue in some shape or form. And Michael Chiklis, the star of The Shield, has said several times he would love to return to the character of Vic Mackey, be it a movie or another limited series. I would love to see the show return to FX. I think the time is right. It's been over 10 years now since that show ended, and I would love to see a revival or a reboot or something of The Shield. Number 2 on my list is going to be, I struggled with number 2 on my list, making it number 1, but then my number 1 pick edges it out slightly. And this is a show that had an ending. Unfortunately, it was canceled. They had plans for a 4th season, and it's a very, very interesting show. It's one of my probably top 10 favorite television shows of all time, easily, and that is the 2013 to 2015 NBC drama series Hannibal, based on the books by Thomas Harris. Now, this show, honestly, when it started, I had no interest in it because I couldn't possibly live with the idea of someone else playing the character of Dr. Hannibal Lecter than Anthony Hopkins. And the more and more stuff came out about this show in its first season about how good it was and how everybody was liking it and accepting it, and how good Mads Mikkelsen is as Hannibal. And I stand on the other side of the show now telling you that I think Mads Mikkelsen stands neck and neck. Sometimes he's better than Anthony Hopkins was as the character of Hannibal. And this show is just downright incredible. It is a dark, twisted television series, and it is very psychological. There's a lot of crazy shit that happens on this show, and it really gets you invested in the characters on the show. And one of the most important things about this show is halfway through it, this entire show kind of gets changed and turned upside down because of the character of Hannibal and what happens with him. And that leads to a phenomenal conclusion in season 3 where they basically redid the story of Red Dragon. And that's one of my favorite books of all time, and they did it more justice than either of the Red Dragon movies. There was Manhunter, and then there was the 2002 Red Dragon movie that also starred Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. Not a bad movie, but I feel here, giving it a full 6 to 7 hour story arc on a TV show really gave that story room to breathe. And I loved it. Now, obviously, there were plans to make the 4th season of this the Silence of the Lambs storyline, and they were going to bring in Clarice Starling and do that whole story again in this world and this setting. Unfortunately, the show got canceled because it just didn't have the viewership on NBC that they wanted. And it's really strange. When you watch Hannibal, it does not feel like a network television show. This feels like a very limited run HBO or Showtime series. It's very dark, it's very twisted, it's horrifically violent at times. And at times you question, how is this show on a national broadcast television channel and not a pay-for channel? It's really bizarre. There have been rumblings out there that they want to do this 4th season of Hannibal and release it on a streaming platform. Now, right now, Amazon owns the streaming rights to the Hannibal TV show, and I think it would be the perfect home to have a 4th season of Hannibal. Mads Mikkelsen has already said he wants to do it. Show creative director Brian Fuller also wants to do it. Everybody is pretty much on board to do this. It's just getting the green light for someone like Amazon to say, hey, you know what? You have 10 episodes. Go nuts. And I wish they would do it. I really, really want that Silence of the Lambs storyline told through the lens of the Hannibal TV series. Amazing show. I cannot recommend it enough. And finally, number 1, my most wanted revival of any TV show ever, is also coincidentally happens to be my favorite sitcom of all time, and that is Frasier. I love Frasier to death. Frasier is the one sitcom that I watch in its entirety about once a year now. I love this show to death. I think it is pitch perfect. I think every episode of this entire show is hilarious. I don't think there's a bad episode. There's not a bad season of it. It is so incredibly and smartly written. It is just, what an incredible experience Frasier is. Now, it is unfortunate that the actor that played Frasier's dad on this show, John Mahoney, he recently passed away. And it's unfortunate because a revival right now, while still possible, won't have the same impact without him. He was a major character on this show, and it's a massive loss for those involved with Frasier. But it's still possible. You could still do a revival of Frasier in 2018 and 2019 and 2020, whenever. Everybody else is still alive and kicking, and I think it would be awesome to bring this show back. I'd love to check in on Frasier, 15 years later. Where is he? Last we know, he got on that plane and headed to Chicago. I would love to see what happened. I'd love to see where he is in his life right now. It would be awesome, and I think NBC, it would behoove them to take a look at what Roseanne has done for ABC with this revival and say, hey, let's give Frasier another run. I think it would be awesome. That's my number one pick. So this is my top 5 shows that I want a revival or a reboot of badly. I'd love to know in the comments below what shows you would like to see come back in either a revival or reboot setting. As always, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And until next time.